Gardening in the tropics is very different than gardening on the mainland. And it should be, right? We're in a tropical climate here. In the mainland, it's a temperate climate. And what likes to grow here may not necessarily like to grow there. I could never grow kalo on the mainland like I could grow it here in Hawaii. Just like it's almost impossible to grow zucchini here in Hawaii. They just prefer the mainland weather, or at least mainland pests and diseases. So how do you grow those crops that simply don't do too well out here in the tropic? Well, stay tuned because I'm going to share with you 5 tips on how to grow those crops. Okay, now tip number 1 for finding success growing vegetables here in the tropics is choosing the right variety. The right variety is key, and that's why I put it here first. Because if you don't start off with choosing the right variety of vegetable that you start growing, then you may just right there find your reason for failure. Because having a variety of vegetable that has been bred to grow in your climate is key to finding success. It doesn't make any sense for you to be growing a variety of tomato that was bred for a place like Vermont when there are tons of varieties that have been bred right here in the tropics. When a vegetable has the chance to grow in a place and produce offspring season after season, those seeds begin to take on traits that make it more adaptable to that climate. It's able to adapt to the weather, to moisture, to pest pressure and disease pressure. And that makes it so you may think to yourself, tomatoes just won't grow here, or zucchini just won't grow here. Whereas in fact, the problem might be you chose the wrong variety. And if you're interested in learning more about varieties to grow here in the tropics, I did make a video covering this exact topic. So instead of me rambling on here, why don't you just check out the link down below in the description after this video is done. So let's move on to number 2, shall we? The second tip to help you grow better here in the tropics is to plant at the right time of the season. A lot of us make the mistake that we think that when we garden here in the tropics that we can just grow anything all year round because we're in the tropics. It's hot and sunny all year. But in reality, there are seasons here. And currently, it's now the winter here in Hawaii. It's typically the rainier time of year. It's a little bit cooler. It is considered the makahiki season, a time of abundance and harvest. And this is a time when we don't really do too much gardening. But there are plenty of vegetables that do grow this time of year. Just like there's a lot of great vegetables that grow during the summer. And if you're familiar with growing in temperate climates, you'll know that you start a summer garden in the spring and you can start a winter garden in the fall. And it's pretty much the same here. So don't get caught in the trap that you could just grow anything any time of year, because that may be the reason why you are finding failure where other people find success. Because you're just planting it at the wrong time. And if you want to find help on when to plant what, I made an ebook that you can purchase, which I'll leave a link to down in the description below. This ebook will only be available at that price through the new year. And then I'm going to take it offline, make some updates, and I'll probably relist it at a slightly higher price. So if you want to get that ebook at a lower price, now would be the time. Great holiday gift. Click on the link down below for that ebook. So moving on here to tip number 3, this is something that a viewer actually asked me to show off. Certain growing environments that we can grow those harder to grow vegetables out here in the tropics. And for me, I created this little screen house out of ohio logs, some screening material, and some clear plastic roofing. And that created an environment where I can control the water and keep the pests out, as well as have a nice airflow, because that's really important here in the tropics. And so by creating a nice environment, like building a little screen house like this, or creating a greenhouse, or purchasing a greenhouse kit that you can find online, could help for growing a lot of crops like tomatoes, like the big beefsteak tomatoes, or there's spider webs everywhere. It's that time of the year, I guess. But also growing things like zucchini, or mainly those fruiting type of plants. Those are really hard to grow out here in the tropics. Any type of typical vegetable plant that has a fruit on it, that might be something that you'd want to grow in a more protected environment. Eggplants do okay out here. Other sorts of things with tougher skin tend to do well out here in the tropics. But those vegetables that can get hit by pests and don't like a lot of moisture, plant them in a house like this. You'll be doing yourself a big favor. All right, tip number 4 is prepping your garden soil properly. If you don't have healthy soil, you don't have healthy plants. So no matter what you try and grow in that soil, you may not find any success. So it's important to make sure that your soil is filled with life. I like to make sure that it has good drainage. So my soil here has a lot of black cinder in it. I also have a lot of compost. I have some native soil that I've been able to scrounge up. I have some manure products, and whatever I could find to add fertility in here, I try and add it, because soil is key. And especially here in the tropics, having soil that is well drained is especially important, especially in the wet tropics. If you're in the drier tropics, you could get away with soil that's not as well drained. But here in the wet tropics, even in a structure that is covered, like here in my little grow house that I have, you need well draining soil, because during the winter time it gets wet and damp here. And even though you may not water, the soil just kind of absorbs that moisture. It's so wet. So you still want to be sure that it's well draining, even in a grow house like this. Okay, and last on the list here, coming in at number 5, is controlling the pests. Tropics are known to be big on the pests. There is a lot of pest pressure out here, and it seems like new pests are showing up all the time. And so we have to be sure that we protect our plants from those pests. That's why I created a screen house to try and screen out pests from even being able to enter an area where I'm growing certain plants. But you also want to be proactive by spraying certain sprays that help detract pests, like natural liquid soap sort of deterrent that helps deter certain bugs. Or my friend Tony Vera that lives here on the Big Island, he's created a pest prevention product he calls the Mayan Healing Rain, that tends to not only help prevent pests, but help his plants grow even better. And so by finding a product that you like that helps protect your plants against pests, will help you grow better food. Now, a lot of these products are products that you spray on the leaves that help with a lot of the pests. Like here in the avocado, it's lace bug. In the garden, you'll find a lot of aphids or whiteflies. And those sorts of sprays that when you spray them on the leaves really help deter those pests. And so sometimes out here, even though I'm a big proponent on having healthy soil, and that means you have a healthy plant which can withstand the attack of a pest, sometimes you need a little extra help because the pests are that bad, especially when you're trying to grow one of those harder to grow crops out here in the tropics. So make sure that you have a pest prevention plan ready to go before your plants start to sprout. And do that, and you'll find yourself growing some of those hard to grow crops in no time. All right, before we go, one bonus tip for all of you out there who are really trying to grow those hard to grow crops here in the tropics. This may be something that a lot of you may not want to hear. It's important that we start to think about changing our diet. Now, what do I mean by that? That means we need to escape the idea of eating these mainland type foods and get used to the idea of eating the foods that grow, that want to grow here in the tropics. I can grow ulu and turn it into flour a lot better than I could grow wheat and turn it into flour here in the tropics. Sweet potatoes grow better than russet potatoes here in the tropics, so why not think about choosing some of those? And a kombucha squash? Man, that thing grows like a weed. Whereas a zucchini is almost impossible, like I said earlier. So why keep on trying? Just get used to what already grows here. And so a lot of that stems in learning how to cook with this food. And so you have to explore and find new recipes and new ways to cook food that is delicious. Because I'll tell you, a lot of this food that right now you may think doesn't taste very good is just because you haven't learned how to cook it yet. Because this ulu, that kalo, that sweet potato, that whatever that you're not used to eating that grows well here in the tropics, it's delicious as long as you know how to cook it. So save yourself a lot of trouble and time and learn to start enjoying the food that grows here in the tropics. By growing crops that are suited to grow well here, you'll find a lot more time and a lot more abundance growing in your garden. And if you want to learn how to grow some of that abundance of your own, why don't you check out this video right here, where I show off how to start a tropical food forest. I created a food forest not too long ago on my mom's 1/4 acre property, which is right next door to this one. And I go through pretty much everything. how to start it, how to design it, how to implement it. And I go through the different layers of the tropical food forest and what plants to grow in each one of them. So check out that playlist right here, and I'll see you over there, everyone. Thanks for watching today. If you have a question, go ahead and leave it in the comments. Hui ho!